Welcome back, YouTubers. This is Omar from Near Mint Condition. Today I'm going to show you my haul for January of 2018. And really, I wasn't expecting to get all this stuff early on this year, so let's do this. Alright, let's kick this off with some books that I bought at Half Price Books. And I've already read these digitally, but I needed to own them because I was kind of waiting on a hardcover edition of both of these, but I figured, what the heck. If they ever come out, I'll give these away. These are wonderful books that should be in everybody's library. God Country and I Kill Giants. God Country is done by Donny Cates, who is now working on Thanos, and he's doing Redneck. And it is an amazing story about an old dude that has Alzheimer's, and his son comes and visits, and he doesn't remember any of his family members. And all that goes away when he picks up this magical sword, because he remembers everything. He remembers his family. He remembers who he was. And it's really emotional and badass when all these gods and demons start showing up to battle him for the sword. The ending is very moving, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful love letter to anybody that has lost a family member to that horrible, horrible disease. Because it is not fair and not a way for anybody to go. But yeah, I can't say enough about this. I don't want to give too much away. But it's all self-contained in this one book. If you have not picked this up, pick it up because it is amazing and worth the read. Again, this is God Country by Donny Cates. And of course, Donny Cates isn't alone on this trip. This also has wonderful artwork by Jeff Shaw. So, yeah, do yourself a favor. Pick this wonderful, wonderful book up. You won't regret that. And speaking of books, man, I can't believe I'm kicking this list off with two of my favorite books of all time. I Kill Giants, which you've probably seen the previews of. I picked this up at Half Price Books as well. Because I passed on the hardcover because I wanted a complete collection of the 5th anniversary hardcover. So maybe they'll release something for them right before the movie comes out. So this is done by Joe Kelly, who you probably may know from his Deadpool run, his X-Men run. He had a Justice League run. But this book is awesome. And it is drawn by J.M. Ken Nomura, I believe. Hope I'm saying it right. So it looks like a manga, but... And actually, sometimes it reads like a manga. But this is one of those books that I cannot recommend enough to, right up there with God Country. It's about a little girl that... She's like a dungeon master. She plays Dungeons and Dragons, and her fantasy life kind of comes to life. For reasons that I can't really get into. Because she's dealing with depression, and you don't know what's real or what isn't at first, but things get revealed as the story goes on. It's not until about issue 4 that you find out why she's doing this, and I think it is wonderful. Joe Kelly writes a letter in here as to why he decided to write this story, because at the time I think he was dealing with his dad's diabetes and losing his dad eventually to this disease. I think for anybody that has experienced loss or experiencing loss in their lives, this is a really wonderful book to kind of help you get through those moments. And this wonderful little forward. My wife and I say that to each other now. We're stronger than you think. It's a beautiful book. So, yeah, you get this chance, pick this up. Now, let's get to some not that deep books, but still fun. Robin continuing the Chuck Dixon run with art by Tom Grumet, and I believe Tom Lyle started picking some of these up. So this is the 90s Robin run. Oh, Mike Wieringo, forgot he was on this book too. None of these have been collected, with the exception I think of a couple of the crossover issues, but most of the stuff has never been collected. A lot of the earlier spoiler stuff. Suicide Squad, continue the 80s run and early 90s by John Ostrander. So, this is awesome because I think we are one volume away from completing that entire run. And I can't wait to have all those on my shelf. Not going to say much about this other than the fact that I picked these up because of Steve Dillon. Even though Steve Dillon's art really doesn't fit the Wolverine stories told by Daniel Way, I still enjoy his panel work and his use of layouts, and that is the main reason why I picked this up. As far as the stories, whatever. Daniel Way. I have not read this, but I'm excited to. BPRD Hell on Earth Volume 1, continuing the BPRD saga with a new title. And again, the fake leather inside cover. A lot of stories in here that I have not read because I stopped getting the trade paperbacks when I started picking up the hardcovers. So if you don't know, BPRD is a spin-off of Hellboy. And a lot of the characters that you may be familiar with in the Hellboy series do appear in here. I better not flip too much through there because I read most of the stuff. Then you get the hardcovers, of course, come with the sketchbooks and original artwork that was drawn for fans and things like that. Original sketches. Very, very cool. It's the way I collect them. And sadly, I believe Plague of Frogs, volume 3 or 4 is out of print. So, one of my favorite things about Big Hard Sex Criminals is that you can take the dust jacket off, and now nobody knows when you're reading Big Sex Criminals. Now they're just thinking you're reading a book called No Strings Attached. They did that with volume 1 as well. This is volume 2, by the way. I haven't started reading this run yet. This is Matt Fraction, but it's supposed to be one of his best works. I'm not the biggest Fraction fan. I think probably my favorite thing he did was co-writing the Iron Fist book, and the Hawkeye book was pretty good. And Casanova. Actually, I did enjoy Casanova. So, we'll see what this is about. Now that I have 2 volumes, I can read them back to back. And I think this video is going to go a little longer than it usually does. Sorry about that. So you can just skip through the things you don't want to hear about. So I just want to talk a little bit more about these. So for people that don't know, this is New Mutants Volume 3. Previously, Marvel only collected the first 6 issues, and this collects all 13 issues of that. This leads to the new X-Men series right after New X-Men ended with... I'm sorry, Grant Morrison's New X-Men ended with 150. They decided to change the title to this, probably to sell more comics. It was called New X-Men Academy X. This is the series that Nuncio De Phillips and Christina Weir started. And it's pretty much the old New Mutants coming back as teachers, and there's a whole new cast. This is where a lot of these characters like Mercury and Hellion and Wither and characters like that play a bigger role later on, especially when Yost and Kyle come into New X-Men. They all get their start here. And like I said, only issues 1 through 6 was collected. And then they went on to start collecting their New X-Men run. So it's pretty cool that we get 7 through 13 in here, along with the kind of prequel from the X-Men Unlimited series. I think 42 and 43. So really cool. I remember the artwork in the first few issues kind of threw me off because of their really over-elongated necks that they have, the characters. But that's okay. And then we get some Barberi artwork towards the back, who has a very Ringo and Humberto Ramos kind of art style. Covers by Chris Bachalo and Joshua Middleton. Next up is Incredible Hulk Epic Volume 21, Fall of Pantheon. This has a lot of... Oh, this has the Tales of Astonish. Oh, cool. Sorry, I haven't flipped through this. Yeah, this is a one-shot by Peter David. Everything actually here was written by Peter David, I think. Yep. Man, cool. It's got the Venom and Hulk by Peter David. Okay, cool. Now we're talking. A lot of artwork by Gary Frank. And, oh, man. Yeah, the very controversial and beautiful written In the Shadow of AIDS storyline. Yeah, I remember when I was a teenager reading that. That was really moving. And then I think Liam Sharp takes over as the lead artist on this. But this is awesome because if you own the Peter David Visionaries 1 through 8, this is literally like volume 21. So it would be, you have the first 8 Visionaries by Peter David, then you have volumes 19 and 20 of the Epic, and now volume 21. So you are literally going to have, hopefully, if they keep going this route, the entire Peter David collection in trade paperback format. Sadly, not Omnibus, but who knows. This means absolutely nothing to anybody but myself, but this is the final issue of Superman that I needed to start working on my custom binds. I'm trying to do the Triangle Years post-death and rebirth of Superman. So, pretty excited about that. I will be making a video on how I do them and where I ship them off to, in case you're ever curious about custom binds. So, stay tuned. But it'll be a couple of months probably before that gets finished. Next up is a book that I waited on, but I found at a comic book store. They had it for $10, so I couldn't pass it up. This is the beginning of the new X-Men. Like, after Excalibur was canceled, Kitty Pryde, Colossus, Nightcrawler came back to the team and joined up with Wolverine, Marrow, and Rogue. This is the storyline that has Professor Xavier coming back to the X-Men. Big Cerebro takes, like a humanized form for the first time. Chris Bachalo, Adam Kubert on art. Some early Lionel Yu stuff, yeah. Not really sure what else to say about this. I mean, obviously I really don't remember much. So, while working in Nashville, I picked up 3 other Peter David books. These were half off. These are the Supergirl runs, and he is also teamed up with Gary Frank towards the beginning. Leonard Kirk later on. But this is the Linda Danvers years, the Matrix, and Linda Danvers, and the mystery of who she is. Oh, yeah. Now, I've read all these. These are awesome. And Volume 4, I believe, comes out in 2 months. So I just keep hoping they keep going with it. I believe the whole run was about 70-something issues. So it'll be probably a matter of like 6 or 7 trade paperbacks, especially when they're this thick and contain about 12 issues in each book. Really nice pages. Glossy pages. So while I was working in Nashville, I went to that magical place called Ollie's that everybody kept talking about, where the books were heavily discounted. So the only book I ended up getting was this Second Chances, which reintroduces Jason Todd to the Batman books, and it was $4. Can't really say much about it. I mean, the only story I think that I remember standing out from here is the meeting between Bruce and Dick Grayson. When Dick finds out that there's a new Robin, he confronts Batman about it. Now, Dick at this point was with the Teen Titans areas, and he's donning the Nightwing costume. So they have this whole really emotional, I believe this is written by Jim Starlin. It's a really emotional reunion. He feels betrayed that Batman didn't tell him that there was a new Robin. So it's really cool. I really like the dialogue in that issue. So, Second Chances. I think that's the only story that stands out. For $5, I picked up 80 After Death. This is the Jeff Lemire and Scott Snyder book by Image. I'm not the biggest Lemire art fan. I did not enjoy his art in Sweet Tooth. I know it's an acquired taste. I don't like the way he lays out his panels, and I don't like the way he draws his humans. But I guess we'll see. I pushed myself through Sweet Tooth, and I really ended up enjoying it. And I happen to like Scott Snyder's Batman, so we'll see. Vision, the water-damaged edition, or at least that's what they make you think with Under the Dust Jacket. I think most people that probably got this book probably thought it was water damage because of the thin paper and being in a warehouse for too long and having the wavy pages. Kind of the same deal that Infinity had, the Infinity hardcover. So yeah, I read this in one sitting. I had read the issue 1, and my fellow Omni Bros kept talking about how wonderful it was. So I finished it out, and it reads so much better in a collected edition. I really, really enjoyed it. I think the only thing that I did not like, by the way, about this much is also from the director's cut, so it comes with the script and things like that. The pages, the layout pages, things that you found in the director's cuts of the books. The only thing that I did not like was the portrayal of Victor from Runaways. But that is just a minor gripe, because as far as the story, it makes sense for him to be acting this way. In stock trades and some half price, or no, one of these was $10 at a comic book store. The Mike Grell years, 5, 6, 7. I bought 1 through 4 previously from somebody from the Collected Editions group on Facebook, and now I'm trying to finish this out. These volumes I have never read, so I'm excited to read them. Like, I've read the Longbow Hunters in the first probably 10 or 15 issues of Mike Grell's run. So I'm excited to read these for the first time. I know he stopped doing the artwork for the most part, but it looks like he was teamed up with some pretty talented folk that kind of mimic his style. I think that's Dennis Cohen. Oh yeah, he loves him some Naked Green Arrow. Next up is Iron Man, the Epic Collection, Doom. Not sure why I said it like that. Maybe that's the only way to say Doom's name. This collects Iron Man 247 to 257, Annual 10 and 11, and materials from Captain America Annual 9, which I find kind of weird because I think that's either the Atlantis attacks or the Terminus crossover. Let's find out. Oh, yeah, it is the Terminus factor. Okay. But that was a 4-part crossover. So, do they only collect part 1 and part 2 and tell you to go buy the other epics? What was the point of collecting part 1? Yeah. Okay, so they collect part 1. Oh, it was a 5-part. And they collect part 2. Don't remember the art looking like that, huh? It's a little faded. Maybe it's just my copy. Yeah, that doesn't... Yeah, that is really faded. Maybe I got a bad copy of this. Yeah, if you own this, let me know, because it's weird. Some of the pages are fine, and then some of the other pages look really faded out. So yeah, the story continues and into other annuals. So I find it very weird that they only collect the first 2 parts. Okay. But yeah, it's the issues 250 where he fights Dr. Doom again. It's kind of the follow-up to the Doom fight in issue 150. So here we go. Cable, written by Joe Casey and art by Ladron. And I had mentioned before how Ladron kind of mimics that Jack Kirby art style. And I remember not digging it at first. That's not him. This is the -1 issue. This is Ladron. This one, I believe, is written by James Robinson. This is Cable's first appearance in modern time. And then his meetup with Wolverine. So all these stories that you found out about, like in New Mutants 94, 93, when he knew Wolverine, when you find out that he knew Moira McTaggart, it's all in the first 2 issues here. The -1 flashback issue, and then the Cable and Wolverine issue, 1-shot. And then it kicks off with the Joe Casey run. Or James Robinson, yeah, and then it was Joe Casey. And like I said, art by Ladron was a very Kirby style. This stuff has never been collected, and I know there's another volume, I believe it's the Nemesis contract. This is the Hellfire Hunt. And then they're also doing the Revolution years. So man, Cable's getting a lot of love. Might have something to do with that Deadpool movie. Next up, this is pretty unique. This is done by These books were released by Archaea. I believe Hub is a French artist. And this is the complete Okko. They were released before in hardcover, and it's got beautiful artwork. Yeah, it's like I started reading half of this already. It's like a mix between Samurai and reminded me of Ninja Scroll a little bit, but mixed with a lot of Western elements. So I find it really, really cool. And yeah, and all done by a French guy. So apparently they had only released, I believe, the first 4 hardcovers, and they canceled the 5th hardcover. So the only way to finish the story out is to get this, or I guess get the single issues. So I find that really shitty. Why you would release the hardcovers and not go ahead and release the last one? You're kind of screwing over your fans by not releasing the final volume. But yeah, and apparently there was a short print run on this. I'm a little disappointed that it's softcover, not hardcover, but I'm enjoying it so far. And if you like any kind of Japanese folklore tales or even westerns, this is written more like a western. Yeah, this is pretty badass. Not going to talk about this much, but this is the Robotech book that I did a video on. This is Classic X-Men. If you're all curious as to what is in here, I did a video review of what is collected in here in a previous episode, so check it out. I also did a video unboxing of the Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck by Don Rosa Library Edition, Volume 7 and 8. Been waiting a year for that one. Sal, mad props to you, man. I can't believe you found me one of my wells. This is JLA Avengers by Busiek and Perez, the Absolute Edition. This is one of those books that I passed up on when I found it for $50, and I'm like, no, I'll get it later. I'm sure it'll be cheaper. I was never able to find it again. And I love George Perez. He is one of my favorite artists to own this awesome story of Avengers versus the JLA in oversized format. Just makes me all kinds of giddy. I love this story, and I love George Perez's oversized artwork. Man, look at that. That is awesome. I had the trade paperback, so I'm glad that I picked this up. So again, Sal, thank you very much for finding this for me, man. You are a gentleman and a scholar. And then there is the Avengers JLA Compendium, which kind of shows you like the behind the scenes of how all this got started, the layouts, the sketches, pencil pages, more words. Yeah. Oh, I haven't read this yet. So when working in Cleveland, I found this copy of Guardians of the Galaxy for 45 bucks. I had a coupon for 20% off. And I told myself I wouldn't get it because I wasn't the biggest Jim Valentino fan as far as his art, so I didn't really need to own it because I already have the 3 trade paperbacks. But, you know, 45 bucks, 20% off, Omnibus, just a better looking spine on the shelf. Yeah, sure, why not? So, collecting all of Jim Valentino's Guardians of the Galaxy with Major Victory, Yondu, Charlie 27, all these characters. Oh, Talon, Starhawk. Yeah, all these characters. Oh, Mark Texeria. Now this I can get into. He was one of my favorite artists. Previously collected in 3 trade paperbacks, and there are 3 trade paperbacks that finish out the series, the 90s Guardians of the Galaxy series. They're called Guardians 3000, I think. Guardians of the Galaxy 3000. But those are not written or drawn by Jim Valentino. So on a whim, I bought Soulwind based on the cover. I don't know if that does anything for you all, but I was intrigued. This was released by Omnibus, I believe. Yeah, and it is Scott Morse's story. I believe there's 5 chapters in here. The book is about 500 and so pages. I read this all in one day. I was flying out somewhere and decided that needed something unique to read. This, like I said, this is on a whim. I had no idea what this is about. So it starts off with this kind of like Japanese art style about a boy that finds a sword in the water, and makes no sense. And there's aliens that kidnap a little boy named Nick, who's supposed to be the chosen one, who's supposed to pick up the Soulwind, which is the magical sword, and defeat the villains that are in the story. There's cavemen, there's talking creatures, there's King Arthur, there's time travel, and none of it makes a bit of sense, because then there's like people like in 1947 talking about how they're going to Mexico to get an abortion. Most of this doesn't make sense until you get to about book 4, I'm sorry. And then it all kind of comes together, and I love the way that it comes together. His art style changes based on the way that he wants to tell the story. Like, this is a fairy tale story. So yes, it all kind of comes together with when this kicks off. And the payoff is really cool. My only gripe is I wish it had been longer, because I think it would have been a lot more epic that way. I would have gotten more attached to the characters. But yeah, if you want something unique to read and you've never read Soulwind, this was out of print for years, and Omnibus just brought it back. Yeah, even the Feudal Japan story all ties in later on. Next up is Pogo Box Set 1 by Walt Kelly. I waited to get this book because, this box set, because box set 2 was on hiatus for, I don't know, 10 years or so. So what happened was Kim Thompson, the guy from Fantagraphics, and Walt Kelly's daughter both worked on these books. But in between these books and box set 2, they passed away. So the whole project was on hiatus. So, Pogo, it's a daily comic strip back in the 50s, late 40s, early 50s. It's like a political satire is what it was. And the reason I know about this is because I randomly bought a book when I was a teenager that had a lot of the colored pages from the Sunday strips. And I really love his art style. It reminds me a lot of the Carl Barks stuff. So I wanted more. And then when Fantagraphics decided to start doing the complete run, I was like, well, I gotta pick it up. So the Sundays are included in these. Here's a little bit of volume 2. And yeah, they both have dust jackets. Let's take those off for now. It looks pretty cool. And just a little more of the artwork. So if you never read Pogo, they have trade paperbacks out that are really cheap. And I'll see if it fits for you. But yeah, I love this stuff. There is one more thing that I did get, was the Baishoujo Katana figure, because these are the figures that I collect. So let's get this sucker open. attach that there, and there she goes. I find it pretty cool that she comes with an interchangeable mask, so you can have either that one or the one with the eyeballs. So there you go. There's my haul for January of 2018. Like I mentioned before, I didn't expect it to be this many books, but damn, sometimes I get carried away. As I mentioned before, the 2 books that I recommend out of all this stuff, I mean, I love classic X-Men, but are definitely I Kill Giants and God Country. If you've never read them, do yourself a favor and you will not regret it. Thank you for joining me. This has been Omar. Don't forget to watch our weekly show every Thursday. I'd love to know what you guys picked up this month in January. And yeah, just keep watching the show for more hauls and more unboxing and more reviews of some of these omnibus that come out. Have a great day.